I guess if any of you guys want to come back from something, it's your lucky day because Jim Nantz just called into the program. He is one of our favorites, one of my favorites, one of the greats, Jim Nantz here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Jim?
Hello, my friend. It's good to be with you.
Right back at you. I guess it's comeback week right in front of you.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It sure sounds like it. Sure sounds like it, doesn't it? I mean, last night was it's still playing on a loop in my head, if that makes any sense. It's still so fresh. I'm in Augusta now, but it just still feels so raw. You know, I got barely any sleep and already been out to Augusta National, but I have this every year on the immediate hours and the transition from the championship game to Augusta. You've been so tethered to the tournament for weeks. You've called, 12 games during the tournament, including the Final Four. And I'm trying to pull away from it, go over here to this little golf thing. But what a night! What a night!
I know. And then, what did Bill Self say to that team at halftime? Huh? I mean, you could see they came out, and you guys nailed it. And, Rafter is talking about going high-low. That's exactly what they did. You and Grant Hill were right on top of it, as well as it was unfolding. What do you think Bill Self said to that team last night, Jim?
I don't know. I asked him that on the podium. That was my first question,
right.
And he didn't have much to say about what he told them. I'm sure there probably were a few things that he didn't let in. But this was a seasoned team, and they'd had a recent experience where they turned the switch at halftime in the Elite Eight against Miami, and maybe there was a reminder there. It's interesting. You think you've got every single conceivable angle covered, and so much of this is just in my head on recall. But when we're at halftime, Grant just said, if they come back a little bit on Carolina, the Tar Heel kids are going to have, could potentially have in their head that Baylor did this to them. So it might be a different approach in the way that you come back. But psychologically, the impact that, oh my gosh, they're making a move. We've been through this, and we let somebody come from 25 down to tie us and send it to overtime, ultimately prevailing. But they've been through that recently, and he foreshadowed it. That wasn't on the air. We brought it up, though, when we got it back after the Ernie and the halftime guys. And I think there was a little bit of that confluence. Carolina had been on that side of it, relinquishing a big lead. And hold on, I've got my thank you, man. I've got my drive-through just came to me. Life on the road.
What's for lunch, Jim? What do you got? What's for lunch?
Well, I landed here. There was a little bit of weather, but we got out pretty quickly in New Orleans, and I landed here at 3:15.
Yeah.
And then I got to the house, and I was so charged from the game, I didn't unpack and really go to bed till 5 this morning.
Unbelievable.
So I just stopped at a good old Double D to pick up some coffee and some wake-up wraps at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So we know when Nantz runs on.
I ran out to the course, and then they blew the horn, so I basically got there and turned around. And now I just said, hey, I'm going to go have breakfast.
A tradition unlike any other.
Rich.
It's a tradition.
Yeah,
It's a new tradition unlike any other, Jim.
It is.
Right
I like that.
Thank you.
It's so true. So good morning.
Good. Jim Nantz here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before we do move on to, obviously, the big story at Augusta National that's going to be right there in front of you. The big story that you just put in your rearview mirror being Coach K's final game as head coach of Duke, and you and the rest of the team just absolutely crushed it. I mean, you got me right in the gut when I'm sitting there watching, and you're saying, is this the last time that he's just huddled with his team? And it did turn out to be that way. What was that like for you, that perspective?
Again, you play so much of this stuff in advance, like an athlete tries to imagine and envision a successful moment. For us in broadcasting, we try to see all these scenarios and wonder how we would react, because I don't script things. I have things floating around in my head as far as where I might drop in a piece of information. But most of it is feel and instincts. And the movie, though, that was going on in my head as I followed Duke first and second weeks from Greenville, South Carolina to San Francisco, and this team was evolving and getting wiser and older as each game passed, I kind of thought this just might be their moment. I thought he might ride off into the sunset with the championship. But, I know sports doesn't always follow those kind of preconceived notions. And I was well aware going into every one of those games that it could be the last. So it was Saturday night was epic. I mean,
it
for
sure
North
was.
Carolina to do what it did 4 weeks apart, it's inconceivable if you go back 5 weeks ago. And somebody would tell you that, hey, Carolina's not only going to win next week at Cameron in Coach K's send-off, they're going to beat them at the Final Four and knock them out. Yeah, okay, I believe that. But it was, it was just raw. Again, we're in the reactionary business, and that was a moment that it was kind of hard to get your mind around that he was walking off that floor for the last time, even though you knew it was coming.
And we make so much in our business. We hype. There's hyperbole. There's exaggeration, however you want to put it. But you could make the case that was the biggest rivalry game in any sport ever because of the history between the two, the coach who's on one of the benches, and the fact that it could be his last game. You could really make that case. I mean, I was talking about Bears-Packers in the NFC Championship game or Yankees-Red Sox in an ALCS, but neither of those matchups involved somebody of Coach K's stature and potential, final game. You could make that case. That was the greatest rivalry setup ever.
You can make that case. No question you can make the case. I think you can actually close the case when it comes to college basketball. That way you transcend the college game and try to take it to other sports. I'm sure people have their own view of it, but here's the way I look at it. Coach K was the face of college basketball since he won his first championship in 1991. Of course, he backed it up with a win the next year, which absolutely solidified his stature in the sport. And ever since those teams of 91, 92, and the Leitner and Hill and Hurley group, Duke became either you love them or hate them. But Coach K was always the constant. He was always the one that was going to be there. The players could change, but he's still there. Now, how many figures in sport, you and I cover them all, especially you, how many of them could you say have been the face of their sport for the last 31 years? Now, I've had this, it's not even a debate, really. I've had this discussion with some people after I first raised it. Take Tiger Woods here. This is the 25-year anniversary this week of the win for the ages. So I'll say Tiger is unquestionably the face of golf for the last 25 years. Now, in and out of that, there are stretches where, of course, he wasn't able to compete because of injury, etc. But we'll give Tiger 25 years. We'll give Brady 20 years, even though Peyton Manning, you could argue, was in there as well as the face of the sport during a lot of those years. Or you could say Bill Belichick, but, you're going to top that out at about 20 years. So where do you turn? LeBron, no, a long time, but It's not 31 years. Kobe, it's not even, 31 years. Where do you turn and say anybody in the American sports landscape has been the face of their sport for 31 years? And there is no one other than Mike Krzyzewski. So that was part of what it was like, saying goodbye to that. This is spanning generations. I feel so fortunate that, I know him well, and I got to call all of his championships. And I got to be there for a lot of his highs and some of his lows where they didn't win the title or they didn't get to the championship game like this year. But college basketball will miss him. I mean, he did a lot of things to make the game great. And I got to say, he rallied this team. Sure, they were a 2 seed, so they weren't a Cinderella. They weren't an 8 seed like North Carolina. But I think a lot of people felt going into the tournament after Duke beat them and then Virginia Tech beat them in the ACC tournament, I think a lot of people thought they might be an early knockout. but they made it to the Final Four, and hats off. I want to just say this before I move past it. Hubert Davis is going to be, I think he's going to be a legendary coach. And I was just inspired by him, being around him this weekend, having a chance to have some face-to-face chats with him and to hear the way he handles his team and the way his philosophy works in basketball and in life. I know this is a hard one for the Tar Heel Nation to get over. I've been there on that side as a fan. Actually, the same date, April the 4th, 1983. My beloved Houston Cougars. There's no team that means more to me than that Houston basketball program. But we lost on April 4th in 83 to North Carolina State. And I'm going to tell you, Rich, I'm not over it. Okay? I'm not over it. I'm not trying to embellish it. I am not over it. I was there in the pit in Albuquerque, and I know it was 39 years ago, but it still hurts. So the thing is, after meeting with Hubert, he's got North Carolina basketball back to relevancy. I mean, it's hard to imagine you could even say that. And I can just see there are going to be great things to follow for him. This one stings today. It's impossible to kind of let go of it because you had him down 16. You had him 15 at halftime. And that's jarring. But he's going to do great things.
Jim Nantz here on the Rich Eisen Show, kind enough to call in as he's on the fly, figuratively, after flying from New Orleans to Augusta National, where what a week we have all set up, Jim. You were the one who was, if I'm not mistaken, you chatted with Tiger Woods on live television on CBS at the Genesis Invitational here in Los Angeles on February 22nd, 2021. The next day is when Tiger had his car accident, and now here we are on April 5th, you and I talking, and Tiger Woods has appeared at the Masters, has gone through several practice rounds. He said today, as of right now, looks like I'm playing. I'd just give it to you to put this in perspective, Jim Nantz.
Well, you can imagine the whole world is on watch here. We've got bad weather today. I'm not sure how much he would have been out there anyway. The course is shut down. There's even tornado warnings in some of the neighboring counties, and it's coming down hard. But that's fine. This was not something he was going to be out today marching around. If he was going to do anything, he might have played 9 holes like he did yesterday. But, yes, I had that sit down in the tower live at Riviera. He was supposed to be there for like 15 minutes. He stayed for 45 or 50. And then a few weeks ago, I went down to Florida to spend some time with him and tape an interview that'll air this weekend at 1 o'clock Eastern. Tiger Woods, the win for the ages 25 years later. It's an hour that leads into the live final round broadcast. And I think it's fair to say, because, listen, I've known him since he was 16. You're going to see a side of Tiger you've never seen before in that hour. And he's got an air of nostalgia, and he's very open-hearted about that week. And he was just outstanding and gracious, and I loved that time with him. And, again, I was down in Jupiter. This was after the Genesis, and I got no indication that what's about to unfold here was in the offing. I did not get the sense that he was going to play here.
How about that? At all, huh?
Yeah.
And, I mean, honestly, Jim, the last couple of days I'm seeing the photographs of his practice rounds. I had to make sure that these weren't just photographs from the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, because he looks the same. The swing's the same. The patrons, the gallery, it's the same. I can't believe this. I cannot believe this. What would even I can't even compare what it would be like if he's wearing red on Sunday, and you and Sir Nick Faldo are calling a possibility of this happening. Because he said today on your flight in, I'm sure you saw the soundbite, do you think you can win it? He said, I do. And didn't blink.
I was here, like I said, I saw it. He was asked about that he only ever competes if he thinks he can win, and he says, I think I can. And it was interesting. He did say this. My concern's not about hitting the ball. I'm hitting the ball fine. It's about the walking. And it's a very hilly course. and extremely hilly, and you hit a lot of shots off of side hill lies. So it's going to be about the wear and tear and what the powers of recovery are going to be after you play one round and you go into the next. And, of course, it builds, and there's no rest when you're going 18 holes and you're hitting balls to warm up. But it's the walking. It's interesting. He had talked back at Genesis, and that was in mid-February, that he didn't have the power to hit it out there with today's guys. He says, I'm like a weekend warrior, I think is how he described it on our air. And today, though, he said hitting the ball is not my concern. And he played with my man Freddie yesterday and Justin Thomas. And Fred said that Tiger, his length, he says Justin is not the longest guy in golf, but he's one of the longest. And he said he's out there hitting it at the same distance as Justin on every hole. So it's not – so he's got – listen, the day I saw him, we delayed when we were going to meet until 11 o'clock because he had a workout. And when I saw him, for the first time that day, I said, man, how you doing? And he said he had been up since, I guess, 6, and he said he'd gone after it hard for 4 hours. And, they cleaned up and got dressed for the interview. But when I saw him, I said, well, what, how fun was that? He said, not at all. None. The point is, take me, for example, man, I need to be working out for 4 hours in over the span of 2 weeks. He's doing this every day. He's doing 4 or 5 hours, and he hates it. I hate it for 20 minutes, okay? And he hates it for 4 hours. But this guy is he's just different. I mean, he is this hunger to be great. There's just no one like him. And I listen, he's not coming out here to shoot 100. He's not going to come out here and do anything crazy. I had a couple people say to me in New Orleans, geez, you think he'll break 75? I said, yeah, sure I do. It's Tiger Woods. He's not going to come out here and shoot 1 million. It's just not possible.
Well,
so I'm excited. I know he's going to take all the attention off everybody else in the field. Now, he's got one advantage, Rich, and that is he's not playing with people having high expectations. So, if he makes the cut, people are going to look at this as a monumental achievement, and it is. Tiger's going to look at it like, again, I'm here to win it. But meantime, I'm watching all the press conferences today that are going on in the clubhouse. And, folks, we have Justin Thomas with us. Justin, thanks for joining us. Okay, first question. Doug Ferguson. Yeah, Justin, good to see you. What about Tiger? Nobody gets asked anything about themselves. Bring in anybody. John Rahm's here. World number 1. John, great to see you. Can you believe Tiger's playing this week? They love this. Unless they win the tournament, they're not talking about them. They won't love that.
Right.
But I think it frees up a lot of people weirdly. I think it gives them a chance to go out and be under the radar. Maybe Rory McIlroy more than anyone. Put that one under your hat and think about that for a minute. He could come in here with all of this. Because Tiger, he's not asking for it, but he has sucked the storyline all the way alone onto him. And meanwhile, you got McIlroy here with a chance at the career Grand Slam if he wins it. And it's been a burden for him to be asked about this for whatever it's been, the last 6-7 years since he's had a chance to come in here and get the last piece of the puzzle. Well, now he's coming in here and he's not sitting down and people are asking about the Grand Slam. They're asking about Tiger. So I think it frees him up.
Jim, I cannot wait to listen to your call and the rest of the crew. And thanks again. I feel like I'm holding you from your hard-earned meal. So thank you.
It's going well. I can microwave it. We're all good. I got a couple of wake-up wraps here I'm about to sink my teeth into.
Fantastic.
My first meal after the championship game, so I'm going to savor every bite, and I savor every second. I'm on with you, pal. I'm not joking. I love being with you.
I cherish it as well. Thank you for the call, Jim. Have a great call this week. I will be thinking of you and that tower, and you soaking in every last one of this moment that I hope lasts till the last hole on Sunday. That would be incredible. Thank you,
pal.
Thanks for the call.
Loved it, Rich. Thanks, man.
Right back at you. That's the great Jim Nantz here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.